everyone. Thanks for coming in today. There's quite a bit of you. There was well over 400 people that registered. So we're going to give it a minute or two before we get started. But overall, thanks for joining us today on Thursday, February 1st. We have a lot of amazing things to cover. I'm really excited to be able to share some of the interesting insights and findings that we've learned along the way. So waiting for everyone to get in. We'll give it one more minute before we get started. All right, since we have a lot, let me actually get started on the presentation. I'm about to start sharing the screen. Okay, perfect. So thank you everyone for coming. Before we get started, let's have it like our usual, let's have a quick poll. So in the poll, you will see a few questions. Where are you joining us from here today? If you could answer that. What is your overall level or understanding and proficiency of AI and how that's impacting SEO? If you could answer that. Can you let us know if you have an in-house or you're working with an SEO agency or a combination of both? Some of you might be marketing agencies. I know a few of you have signed up with that. So obviously that would be in-house. And then lastly, what is roughly the monthly budget that you are spending on marketing? So thank you, everyone. As you're answering these, you might see a link in the chat. In the chat, this is our 6th webinar now. So we have done 6 of these. We have covered different topics. Feel free to go and look at it. In the course of the 6 webinars, we've had well over 1,000 plus people that have registered. I think at this point, close to 3,000 people actually. So feel free to go through the different webinars. I know a bunch of you have gone to multiple of ours. This might be your 4th one actually. So for the others that this is your first webinar, feel free to check out all the different topics we've covered. The webinars generally are much more technical in nature in some of them, and we do definitely talk about the more advanced things happening here at the agency and sharing all of that. So a little bit about me, for those of you who don't know, I'm Azarian, the CEO of Azarian Growth Agency. I've been working with early stage venture-backed startups for a little over a decade or so. I've been focused on more or less the early stage because honestly, that's my passion, that's my drive. And I really like to be in an environment that is a constant learning environment. And an early stage startup provides that. You have lack of resources, you don't have infinite time, you have to run really quickly, you have to run a bunch of experiments and you have to quickly learn. And I tend to thrive in an environment like that. So what we have developed here at Azarian Growth Agency is sort of this ecosystem that has really taken off in the past year or so. Obviously, at the forefront is the agency itself, where we work with select partners and we provide them full funnel data-driven strategy support. These are not only just startups, but these might also be challenger brands, as we like to call them. These are brands that are not big names yet, but are striving to become and be able to disrupt the status quo. In addition to that, you have joined our Growth Lab webinar series. As I mentioned earlier, this is the 6th of the series that we've done. These are the latest things that I'm nerding out on. So it's your opportunity to kind of see, and I provide back to the community some of the things that I'm learning or sharing or understanding, and basically our theories, our concepts, or the latest tools that we're starting to implement within our agency. In addition to that, we have our Growth Academy down here. We finished our first cohort. We had well over 300 students that had applied to it. 30 went through the program. Of that, I'd like to share that it was extremely successful. Internally, we have hired as part of a continued education for about 6 of them that will now be joining our team. So that is another thing that we have, and we will be doing the Academy course twice a year, and we're looking to eventually expanding that to make it also virtual and available for more people. And then on top of that, we have our podcasts. Our podcasts are my ways of learning and talking to different industry leaders. We've interviewed well over 20 people so far and more to come. These are what I would consider leaders that are either VCs or founders, that we go through their whole personal journey from their past, their present, and their future, and really extract as much of the insights we can from them. so we could all as a community learn and see what it takes to be able to take a small organization and be able to scale it up and grow it and be able to disrupt the status quo. So all of you here today, so to make sure you're at the right place, I know there was different people. This is not your basic SEO. We're not going to sit here and give you the basic fundamentals. This is really about more of the advanced SEO topics. Again, this is really highlighting and sharing some of our unique insights that we've seen in doing SEO for our clients for the last 20 years. So this is 20 years of experience, and it's culminating and looking at how do you continue to protect your SEO strategy and be able to adapt in a disruptive world that's happening with ChatGPT, and as well as now with Gemini and SGE in general, and how do you ensure your SEO strategy not only is successful, but continues to thrive and is future-proof. In order to do that, we will go over some different topics today, and we'll explain each one of these as we continue to discuss about it. Okay? So in general, how you can think about SEO for most of you, as you already know, is I like to categorize it into 3 pillars. So pillar 1 is really on-page SEO, and what that's really about is is your content relevant? Does it answer the search query? Do you have topical authority? For example, a common strategy is the pillar and spoke strategy. Are you executing that? And in addition to that, do you provide unique perspectives or insights that are relevant to the search query itself? Okay, so in today's webinar, we're going to get a little bit into what AI and content creation and what that is causing. Also talk about SGE, and then also talk about EEAT and explain a little bit about those things to ensure that the content that you are creating will continue to thrive in the future. The next category that we're going to talk about is really technical SEO, and I like to break down technical SEO into basically, is it really site speed, more or less, right? Is it easy to crawl? Is it really to index? And here we will talk about some advantages that you can do in the new world of using Headless CMS. We will get into that and what does that do, particularly related for speed and information of content and being able to create content in a certain way. And then on top of that, we will talk about entity-based SEO and expand a little bit into that. And then lastly, we'll talk about off-page SEO, and this is really about authority. And we will dive into what Google is doing to be able to combat spam and how that's related to off-page SEO. So first, let me share this interesting graph that we came across through Statistica. So what you will see here is a 60x growth in data creation, consumption, and storage in the last 13 years. So you can see here in 2010, these are zettabytes, and how it continues to accelerate and grow. So what this is really trying to highlight to you is how much content is being not only created, stored, consumed online. And it's obviously going to get even more accelerated with the advancement of GPTs. So in Google overall is able to process over 8.5 billion searches every day. That equates to roughly about 6.3 million per minute. So that's some stat that you should know. So you could see how large search in general is and what this really means you as a technical SEO or an SEO in order to be able to thrive, right? So there's more than now 6 million blog posts are published every day across 1.9 million global websites. That's a ton of content being created. And this will only accelerate, obviously, with GPT and how easy it is to create content now, not only just blog articles, but with the multimodals, being able to do video, sound. So this content explosion is further going to get more and more, right? So let's take a step back. So what has ChatGPT, or in general GPT as a whole, done in the creation of content? And let's talk about one category, long form content. So our agency, this is literally a look into the glimpse of our agency, and we break down content production into ideation, research, outline, writing, editing, and lastly, distribution. These are in minutes. So what you're looking at is minutes. So this is about 2.5 years ago or so, before we started implementing GPT into our workflows. And you can see how long each process would take. Predominantly, the most of the time was spent on writing. Now, what it's starting to look like for us is we're spending more time on research. So we're writing better quality content. We've reduced the time in writing by half. And then we're now allocating more to editing and distribution. So what does this mean? That we've been able to produce faster and higher quality content, and we've been able to distribute and create more content types. So SEO in general is making it easier and faster to create content. So that is predominantly what we're noticing with the invention of GPT, right? So how is Google going to ensure to provide quality search results and adapt? If we're one of the agencies, we're not alone. I'm sure there's millions and millions of other content creators and marketers. I'm sure you guys here, most of you here as well, that are already adopted and taking advantage of the new tools that you have at your disposal, right? So there's going to be even more content being created. So what Google has to do, and to really understand how they're trying to combat this, right? How are they going to be able to handle this influx, this even greater creation of content, is really to step back and kind of look at overall their algorithm updates that they've signaled out to us, right? So if you go from May 2022, so this is, about a year and a half or so, there's been 17 major updates done, and we've categorized these updates for you. So one of them is around content quality and relevance of search results, and we'll get into that. There were 6 updates around that. Another one was about enhancing EEAT factors. We will definitely talk about this. So there was 5 updates around that. And another one was around combating spam. There was 3 updates around this, and we will definitely discuss this as well. So keep this in mind. This is overall the major updates that Google has done in the last year and a half or so, okay? So AI is really starting to transform overall the search engine results page. This is what SGE was talked about in Google's actual investor call yesterday. We will share some of those insights that they provided directly from the CEO of the organization and what they shared inside of the call itself towards the tail end of their webinar, okay? So what is this SGE, or what does the search results page of the future look like, and how do you get access to it? So the way you would do it is you would go inside Google Labs, you would turn it on. And if you do, what you will start noticing is your search results page will all of a sudden have a new area here on the right. You'll see that we've colored in dark blue. That is the SGE experience. And one thing I want to highlight is that you will see that overall that page still continues to be important, and organic, however, it gets a little bit shrunken out. So the natural organic search results that we're all used to or accustomed to in the new experience becomes less and less. So it becomes much more important for you as a publisher to ensure that you're ranking and you're showing up in the SGE experience, and you are one of the topical publishers that's being referenced and summarized in this area. Okay, so here's an example from Google itself in overview in FGE, why is popcorn associated with movies? In this particular, I just want to show you the anatomy of an SGE result. There's different variations of this, but what you'll see is a summation here. So this is a summation across multiple blog articles that they've taken in. And the caret will here within each one of these paragraphs will tells you where they got the reference or the source data for the summation. And then down here, it allows you to further ask follow-up questions if you choose to. So you can they already have the prompts written out for you. In addition to that, you're able to notate if this is this information provided is relevant to you or not relevant to you, or you can thumbs down it, and it allows them to kind of learn and train the model. And then on top of that, they provide the actual publisher articles that were used. So if you wanted to dig a little bit more into each one of these, you can easily click into the publisher articles. As you can see, it takes a pretty large presence on the new SERP results, and it does in numerous ways. It's available on shopping searches, it's available on e-commerce, it's available on information searches. It's starting to populate across more and more SERP results overall, and it continues to take a predominant location, which is usually the top of the page. So how do we go about understanding this, right? So one way that we like to dig in to really understand what's going on overall is to really look at the patents. Google, fortunately, releases patents on every single thing that they do. Some of them might be decades old, some of them might be just recent, but if you dig into the patents, you can get a better understanding of at least how the technology works. And then when you understand how the technology works, you can understand what you need to do as a SEO to be able to optimize for it, right? So if you dig into the patents, this is the particular one related to generative summaries. So this is a reference for you guys if you wanted to actually go and read it, but let me kind of summarize it for you. So what you will notice is the two areas that we will dig into is the patent talks about how to use large language models and selectively, not all of it, to be able to fine tune based off of search topical relevance. So this way you're able to understand overall what the user is trying to do and be able to showcase interesting articles around that, right? So it also talks about familiarity consideration, and what that really is about is how relevant is this to the user. So it understands the user's intent, or tries to, and provides information that will give a full scope for the user that will be able to highlight and showcase not only what they were searching for, what their intentional intent was, but also potentially preempt and think about future questions or prompts that it would want to discuss. Okay. So what does this mean? So what this really means for you is you need to zone in on quality over quantity on content production. So if you really spend time and write and do the research and ensure that you're writing a high quality long form article, right, that directly not only answers the query, but answers the search intent of the user, and it's much more thoughtful, and it's not a regurgitation, Google will continue to reward you for that, right? Are you really zoned in on the intent? So it's very, very important to understand not every search has the same intent. And is your piece describing and talking about that? Is your data structured? So with the explosion of content occurring, is your data easy to understand and comprehend and be able to process? So all of these ML language models can quickly be able to really understand what your content is all about. And it does encourage for you to continue to write long form article and really to become a topical authority. So the pillar and spoke strategy that we've discussed in prior webinars continues to become important here as well too. So before we dig in, obviously Google's not just going to go release a LLM model to the wild. So what's really important is to understand that there is more or less a Google quality guideline, and the Google quality guideline goes through and discusses overall what to look for, and it's a team of humans that will go through the search quality results and look at the top 20 search results and be able to evaluate and see what they are creating, right? So this dedicated team will manually review the search results. They will evaluate and see that if the search results are answering the intent, the query, and follow guidelines, right? And they provide human feedback to enable to be able to train these different models. And in order to do this, there needs to be a framework. And the framework that Google has developed and publicly shared is called EEAT. And what EEAT stands for is experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. So what that really gets into is experience is really about, does the creator have firsthand experience, right, talking about this subject? So for example, if I, as an agency owner, I probably don't have firsthand experience really talking about cooking. I'm not the best cook in the world. I really haven't really written any cooking information. But if we were to talk about marketing, yes, I have 20 years of firsthand experience. I've run multiple experiments. Our team has run multiple experiments. And for us to be able to showcase and share that over and over again in our content production, it will become clear that we know exactly what we're talking about, right? In addition to that is the expertise. So how deep do we go into this subject, right? So Google is able to understand the different questions that people might have, or what builds authority around the content itself. So this is where it really digging in and not only covering just small fractions of the content, but going to level 2s and level 3s of the content creation cycle and being able to address all of the questions that surround it becomes important. So this is where the pillar and spoke strategy that has become very famous continues to thrive in the new world. The next is authoritativeness, right? So this is, how are other people talking about this content? So they're not looking for really here in, for example, the amount of links that are coming to your site. Those days are long gone, and I'll talk about that a little bit later on. What they're really looking for is, where are you featured? So are you in an industry blog? Are you in a major media? Some more of the traditional PR elements, and we'll talk a little bit more about this later in the webinar. And then also context really, really matters. So what this really references is really digging into and talking about more or less the search intent. Are you addressing it? Are you resolving it? Are you being able to answer it for that particular user? And are you being able to, in a whole, be able to answer all the questions around it, okay? So now that we've talked about more or less EEAT and what it means, let's dig into a little bit more about how you can continue talking about the second pillar, which is really technical SEO. And here we'll talk about entity-based SEO and Headless CMS. So what is entity-based SEO, right? So what is entity-based search? And the way I like to explain it is sort of this visual diagram that we got from Let the Machines Learn, which we thought was a terrific illustration of it. And I'll kind of walk you through one journey of this diagram, and it'll kind of help you understand what entity-based SEO is really all about. So if you look at this, you're going to see a few things, right? You will see people. So like Da Vinci, Lily, and James are actual people. You will see art. So Mona Lisa is obviously a painting. You will see places. So you will see the Louvre, you will see the Eiffel Tower, you will see Paris. You will see categories. So it's a museum, a place, and so on and so forth, right? And you might even see dates. So what entity-based SEO does is it allows you to start having associations between these different things. And it allows you to be able to predict and personalize the search results pages. So for example, what do I mean by that? So if you look at Lily's journey, you will see Lily is interested really in Da Vinci. How does Google know that? It might be through the search results that Lily has done, from the SERPs she's done, from the blogs that she's read, from the content that she's consumed, and so on and so forth. And because Lily is obviously interested in Da Vinci or researching Da Vinci, she probably will be interested in one of Da Vinci's famous work, which is the Mona Lisa. So being able to surface the Mona Lisa to Lily will be important. So this might happen in sort of the discovery, Google discovery search results, or it might happen in the SERPs themselves as they continue to become a little bit more personalized, or it might happen in SGE to be able to showcase that, hey, this is pretty much very important, right? You're interested in Da Vinci, so you should pretty much know about Mona Lisa. And then in addition to that, let's say if Lily starts at this point wanting to travel and she's thinking about vacation places, Google might then try to suggest and highlight, hey, why don't you go check out Paris, right? And why would it would suggest that? It would suggest because she's interested in Da Vinci, she's researching it. She's now become familiar with the Mona Lisa. She might want to go to Paris because obviously the Mona Lisa is located in the Louvre. And so then this becomes a very clean, direct path for Lily to all of a sudden for Google to be able to provide a personalized experience for her. And each one of these connections are going to have different ranking factors that will allow Google to be able to personalize the search results experience for her, okay? So this is in general what entity-based SEO is all about. So I kind of explained it here. So it really focuses on a holistic approach to content organization and optimization, focusing on establishing clear entity relationships and demonstrating expertise, authority, and trustworthiness across platforms. So how do you go by doing that, or why is this really, really important, obviously? So why it's mainly important is this allows Google to personalize, as I mentioned earlier, overall the user experience based off of your actions. It allows Google to easily see and connect people, items, companies, places, and objects. Allows Google to better understand you as a person, right? So it understands what you need as a user, as a searcher. So it's able to surface much more relevant information to you. And because these things occur, and why is it important for Google, right? You as an SEO. So let's look at the other side of it. With a ton of data occurring, you cannot expect Google to crawl the whole web and continue to do so, and then be able to process the data, and then be able to do all of these different things. So you as an SEO, you need to be able to be considerate of the amount of data being created, and you need to be able to give Google the information that's needed to understand this concept, and for you to organize it in a way that shows that you also understand the content itself, right? So you're going to take your content that used to be in an unstructured world and hope Google can scrape, process, and understand it, and move it into a structured world where it's much more easier for it to be able to understand it, and you're going to be able to make sure that there's no errors within it. So what does this do? This speeds up content consumption, and it allows connection between your content and others. And as the content volume grows overall for the web, and the different types of content being created and the different places content being created, it allows Google to quickly start doing the interlinking that I showed in the earlier graph, and it shows you as more of an expert in understanding your topic. So how do you go about doing this, right? Or how do we go? So again, if you want to dig into more of this, this is the patent that referenced it. So here's the patent as reference. You can go ahead and watch it on the video, and we can also share it if you guys are interested. But the patent in general presents this method and system of computer readable media for ranking search results, right? It involves determining relevance metrics from a knowledge graph, which is what I showed earlier. And it allows you to be able to rank accordingly, more personalized in nature because of this. So how do you actually do this, right? This seems a very complicated thing, and really it's not, to be quite honest. You do this very simply by implementing what's called schema or JSON LD. And the leading, there's different ways of doing it, but the leading version of this is through schema.org. Here's what it ends up, when you go to schema.org, you can go to the documentation section, and it can explain a little bit of how do you use it. There's the schemas themselves that are publicly available, so you can understand which schema does what and all of the different properties that are available. And this is the validation tool that you see. This is one of our articles. So this is an advanced version of doing the schema implementation on this particular blog article that we have written here. And you can see what we do is we describe the article. We talk about the published date. This was a new one that we wrote. We talk about who the author is, right? Who's accountable, who wrote this information, where can you find this author around in the different formats and so on and so forth. And we provide additional context for Google to be able to process this article and consume it really quickly and start doing the interlinking itself. All right. So again, why is this important? So Google processes a ton of web data, but it takes time to be able to process this. So doing schema and implementing this, it allows and speeds up this information. It shows that you understand, you are an expert in the matter, and it allows you to be able to, for Google to identify you as an expert because you are providing this. This is you as an SEO back to Google to ensure that it is able to consume your information, right? So because of that, it comes to your side and it's able to quickly process it. It doesn't have to go through a processing layer. It could skip that, and you have already done its hard work of being able to take unstructured data and structured it for it. And as your content overall volume grows and Google's overall volume grows, it's going to become much more easier for Google to start interlinking the different content pieces. And you can do that as well, not just on your website, but you can do it on other platforms, and you can link to Wikipedia, as you saw there, or different areas to be able to provide additional context in addition to that. And how do you implement it? It's really easy. You just use schema, and you set schema.org, you go through the documentation and you set it up and you implement it that way. So the next concept we want to discuss is this notion, now that you can do entity-based SEO, we want to talk about another technical advancement that's happened recently. And it's really, really important for you to be able to take advantage of these things. And we've seen phenomenal results on the clients that have done this for us, is the idea of headless CMS. And what this really is about is taking your content and being able to use your CMS in a different manner. So let me kind of explain it. So in a traditional CMS, what ends up happening is your backend and your front end are interlinked. So when you're creating your content in the backend, so for example, WordPress, you might be putting it in the WordPress admin area. And then at the time when you press publish, what ends up happening is that the same PHP code that's used gets created. It's not surfaced yet, so it's dynamic. And then when a user visits a page, the code is run. And then at that time, then it's surfaced to the user at that point. So all of this is a big, giant monolith. And if something happens on the code itself, the whole thing will go down, right? So there's the backend and the database and all of this are very much intertwined and interlinked. Then in here, what you end up doing is once you've served it, then you use kind of CSS and you're able to say it's for tablet, it's for mobile, it's for desktop, and so on and so forth. In a headless world, you end up splitting the back end and the front end. So your admin area will be isolated in the back end area, and your front end can be super customized and also geared to be served in a different format in itself for the different devices that there are. So to explain this a little bit more, this is an example of what we have set up for several clients, is this sort of like WordPress, Gatsby, and Cloudflare Edge setup and structure. And what we do here is you have your GitHub repos, right? And you have your WordPress backend and your database in the backend. So all of these are separated on a different server or a different instance, right? So these are not interlinked at all. And what ends up happening is your writers and your content team and your marketers live in this side of the world, and your users live over here. So your users live here at the tail end of all of this. And then there's an intermediary step that is the front end of the website. And in this instance, we use Gatsby, which is a static site generator that ends up creating and taking all of the content that is in here, creates a static version of the page, so it's no longer dynamic. And then on top of that, uses Cloudflare as a CDN, but more importantly, at the edge, so much more closer to the user itself. So you might be in LA, you will get a Cloudflare that is in LA, or if you might be in Yerevan, you'll get a Cloudflare that's closer to Yerevan, right? And then because of that, it makes the site incredibly fast, almost to the point of it's being instant. You cannot get faster than this. And this becomes overall how websites that have implemented this keep on doing incredibly well on one of the key metrics for technical SEO, which is user experience and core web vitals and site speed and overall, okay? So what are the overall benefits? It's improved core web vitals. You cannot get higher scores than this. It is literally a static page that is served to the user as close to the user's locations as possible. The content is updated in one place, so it's really easy. So it doesn't change any of your workflows that your writers and marketers and editors might have in the past. It's quickly distributed into different formats. So you can have a particular content that's for web friendly. You can have one that is for the app. You can have one that's for the watch. You can have, and so on and so forth. So there's no limitation on where your content can live and preside, and you can choose what type of content is available where. It allows you to quickly create the pillar and spoke strategy and make this a little bit more dynamic if you chose to. And in addition to that, as programmatically, as we talked about entity-based SEO, it gives you extra firepower and it'll be able to do that. So it allows for a much more content efficient production, and it allows you to be able to really scale up, okay? So overall, now that we've talked about technical SEO, I know there's a few questions coming in. We will address all of the questions at the tail end. I promise we will go through all the questions. There's a lot of content to be covered, so I wanted to make sure we get it through everything. We will definitely save time for questions. The next area we're going to talk about is off-page SEO and some of the things that we've noticed that Google's been doing in order to be able to combat spam. So there have been 3 major updates done by Google since May 2022, right? Since of those 17 updates, 3 of them were related to how to combat spam. So the most recent one in the 2023 one was all about enhanced detection of various spam forms, right? So this is multiple languages. For Google, it's really trying to understand who is taking advantage of link building in the wrong way, right? Who is going around and basically buying links, or who's going around and creating PBNs, who is going around and really getting easy to acquire links and so on and so forth, right? So this is really what most of these spam updates are about. It's really offsite, and some of it is also on-site. Are you creating low quality content that provides absolutely no benefit to the user, and you're just trying to spit out iterations and iterations and iterations of the same thing by slightly changing things, right? It's not dense. It clearly shows no overall new value or new thing overall into it. Okay, so that was October 2023. In October 22, they started introducing AI into the global area, right? So they started expanding outside of the US. They started looking for other types of linking schemes, and they started really affecting not just google.com, but all the different search engines for all across the world. And then in 2022, they really started digging in and seeing and really pushing and encouraging people to start following traditional SEO best practices. And really, it was the first time they started really devaluing what I would consider low quality backlinks or low quality content, and so on and so forth. Okay, so that was October 2022. So what does this really mean is Google obviously is committed to providing and enhancing the search results query. They want to reward sites that take the time and create quality content. They really want you to be able to show that you understand what you're producing and creating. They also don't want you to be worried about just getting going and acquiring links for the sake of acquiring links to move up in rankings. They rather you do the right things. So this allows you as an individual to be able to not worry about getting thousands and thousands and thousands of backlinks. You just have to get into the right places, or provide the right content, or write in the right journals, and really become a thought leader in essence, and really showcase who you are and what you understand. Okay. So now let me kind of show a little bit of insights from yesterday's earnings call, and this is literally on January 30th, but Google themselves publicly told during their earnings call. Okay. So what they talked about is Gemini was released in December 2023. This is their newest, latest multimodal model. And so it's able to do not just text, it's able to do video, it's able to do sound, it's able to do imagery. And this was used, and now it's being used in SGE. And what they've noticed immediately is a 40% reduction in latency in English in the US. So it's already starting to improve overall performance. So it's quick. People get the results. People get the information that they need relatively quickly. They don't have to sit there and wait, right? So we're so accustomed to, we search and we get it. We search and we get it. And they're noticing that's occurring overall with Gemini. And there's been an overall 40% reduction. Now it's available in 7 languages in the search labs. It was initially, so it's being expanded and it's going out to more and more languages. SGEs, they're noticing, is answering a wider range of information needs, right? So what this means is that it's doing its job of predicting and understanding who you as a user, what you're actually interested in. And it's all doing a really good job of understanding what your follow-up questions might be, or it's helping you get to your answer in a quicker and faster way. So it's also answering new types of questions with different perspectives. So it's not giving you just one answer, it's giving both sides of the story. So you're able to really be able to evaluate and understand and be able to make the right decision because of it. And it's making search much more accessible and intuitive. They're definitely seeing that people who've implemented are using this particular feature. Okay. So what it's really shining in is it's becoming really useful for complex questions. Again, these are directly from Google, directly from the CEO. So what does it mean? It does really good job of comparisons on longer questions, right? It does a deeper understanding such as education or gift ideas. They're noticing an improved overall satisfaction, including conversations, intricate questions, and they're definitely noticing it's surfacing more. So it's bringing up not just the top 10 results, right? It's bringing up the top 20, or it's bringing up different types of information that will allow you to have a much more robust answer in it. And and overall search is much more accessible and intuitive, right? So that's not all, by the way. So the other thing that they're about to do, and it's starting to go out, is generative AI is going to be available on mobile devices right off the bat. It's going to be pretty much built in. So it's going to be in Pixel Pro, and Samsung Galaxy S24, which just depresses me because I have to go buy a new phone. And on top of that, so it's gonna be allow you to circle the search, so you're going to be able to see quickly, and it's going to give vision, so you're going to be able to use some of the multimodal components of it, right? So you're going to be able to use sound, you're going to be able to use video, you're going to be able to use imagery, and so on and so forth. And you're going to be able to do lens overlays, and you're going to really be able to imagine picking up your phone and being able to take a video, and from that video being able to search off of it, or being able to process off of it, or being able to even create off of it. So this is the evolution of where it's all headed. So looking ahead in 2024 and overall our approach, right? So what should be your key takeaways? And we're hoping that, like, overall, what should you do? You know, you've been here, you come at the webinar. If you had to take down the 3 areas that we talked about, on-site technical and off-site SEO, what are we as an agency focused on, and what are we encouraging to future-proof our SEO strategy, right? So continue writing quality content with research that has a unique perspective. Do not repeat. So do not sit there and think, hey, the skyscraper strategy, if I'm just going to take the 50 list and add 5 more on top of that, and so on and so forth, that those strategies are going to be gone soon, right? So it's really about what is your, let's taking in all this information, or what is your perspective, and where do you think things are headed, right? Make sure you're sharing new insights. So make sure you're providing a unique perspective on the topic as a whole. Yes, you might do educational information, but how do you add more to the conversation? How do you take this topic, and how do you add your perspective and your experience and your viewpoint into it? And make sure you're actually covering the search intent very closely. So spend some really good time, and really, when you're looking through your keywords, what is the intent? What do you perceive the user really is missing? And how can you speak to your customer persona very intimately and closely to you are answering specifically their answer and their question, right? So it's not general in nature, it's much more specific. On the technical SEO side, well, speed matters, and it's amazing to see the results that we have gotten. And at this point, it's every industry that we've implemented this Headless CMS and really focused on core web vitals. You no longer really need to worry about getting tons and tons and tons of overall backlinks to your site, or try to figure out how to get your site to work and really take this away or that away, or make compromises. In this new world, you have the technology available to you to be able to really take shine and really make core web vitals work for you, again, in the sense you trying to work against it. On top of that, really spend time, genuinely spend time. This is probably one of the biggest takeaways I can give you, is making sure not just you're doing the basic structure, right? This is not the put in Yoast and let Yoast come up with the basic. It's really spend time and think about your content holistically, and think through that journey, that knowledge graph that I shared, and how can you show to Google not only you understand the article, but you understand the topic as a whole, and how this content is interlinked. And on top of that, to show to Google, where else are you writing information like this, or where else are you sharing this topic from content itself, okay? So this interlinking component really will stand out and really allow not only Google to consume your information, but it will be a signal to them that you are an expert in the field. And then on the offsite, don't really, work on building authority, but don't necessarily worry about getting a quantity of links. This is not an arms race. You shouldn't be thinking about, I need to acquire 200 backlinks or I need to acquire 500 backlinks. It's now, I've seen in multiple search results pages where it's the higher quality links that are incredibly hard to get, but help make a huge difference in rankings. And in some instances, I've seen that URLs that might have just one link outshining in a brand new site over existing domains that the content, the quality of the content is not there. The perspective is just a regurgitation. There's no insights being shared and easily outperforming and outranking that. Okay. Build the overall profile of who you are, who your organization is, and the knowledge that you guys have and understand in the content creation that you're doing, right? This is overall really, really important. And how you do that is you become, for example, you might go and build a thought leadership strategy is one way of doing this, right? So you will be participating in conferences. Ideally, if you can become a speaker at these conferences, you can do webinars, you can do podcasts, you can be a guest contributor in industry specific. So some of the old traditional brand building exercises are really becoming more and more important because those are harder to do. And also they're also the right thing to do. So they tend to have more value and they continue to shine. And the people who are taking advantage of this type of strategy are seeing the impacts overall on the search results pages as well too. So thank you everyone for attending. We're going to get started with the Q&A. So we have about 13 minutes or left. So, and I know I want, as I promised, I'll ensure that I left some time. You will also see in the chat now a link to pretty much a survey. So if you can complete that, that'll be really important for us. That allows us to understand how do we make these webinars better? How do we make sure we provide information that is more relevant to you guys? And it allows us to really fine craft these webinars as, we become better and better at presenting this to you. And in addition to that, we really are building a community is really important for us. It's been a phenomenal experience meeting several of you over the last, 6 months, 7 months since we started doing these webinars. So there is definitely a link for you to be able to schedule a call and chat with me if you like. And if you have any further questions that might come to you and you want to discuss it, feel free to go ahead and schedule the call. Okay, so now let's kind of get started on the questions. I will do my best to find all of them. Hold on 1 second. Okay, so Joe, any suggestions for increasing click-through rate with SGE? So right now, if you are featured in the SGE search results pages, what Google has tried and it continues to try to do too on several of the search results pages is they're playing around with how that looks. So sometimes they will have the blog post underneath it with imagery. Sometimes they might have it to the right of it. And so they definitely want people to click on and consume your content, right? But they've also done a pretty good job of summation. And what they're really trying to do is move the user down the journey of the funnel. So yeah, it might affect CTR rates, which zero-click data in general, we've all seen has. What zero-click data is the experience on the Google organic search results pages, but not necessarily on the publisher pages. But overall, the bet here is that if you continue to see you as a publisher, and as you go deeper and deeper into the buyer's journey, those CTRs will continue to shine for you. And those are the ones that, and just like general, it'll be closer to the conversion event. Okay. What are your predictions on SEO trends in the near future based on all the news and updates from Google? I hope I addressed that. That was really the context of the webinar. So where I really see that we're headed is SGE is a thing. It will get rolled out. It will be everywhere. So it's really important for you as a publisher to take the time and write quality content. In addition to that, really spend time in making sure you have a website that provides an incredible user experience. It's fast, it's quick, it's well structured for not only both the user, but also the crawler and being able to consume the data. And in addition to that, you really need to focus on doing some more of what I would consider the thought leadership types of strategies and really building out your overall thought leadership platform, because where this is headed, where I believe it's all headed, is you will start seeing more unique voices that provide a unique perspective, that have unique data that LLM models might not have access to, start getting more and more prevalence in the search results pages, right? So, because eventually the consumption and understanding of content will become really easy. You will be able to quickly summarize and get at least a basic level of understanding of any topic, right? You don't need to go and spend hours and click on 10 different blogs and really see if there's what's the unique perspective. And quickly in the SG, you can gather that information. But what you're going to really look for is the unique voices, and want to dig into the unique voice and understand what their perspective is and why that's important. Okay. The next question: how does Generative impact page visits? For example, what if Generative summarizes your about page? Again, so this is a question from Robert. So Robert, this is zero click, right? So zero click can potentially affect the overall link to your site, but it is, what it's allowing to is at least you're getting the impression. So if you think about the traditional marketing or digital marketing world, the 7 to 11 impressions that's occurring, the trust that it's starting to build out. So in your awareness type of content might not get the same amount of traffic that you're used to, and certain type of content will die. So for example, you know, in our last webinar, we showed how certain sites were already starting to suffer. So the Quoras of this world or the Stack Overflows of this world really got hit really hard when that type of content was no longer needed. So people were using obviously ChatGPT or using Bard or whatever their preferred GPT is, and gathering the information, or LLM is, and gathering the information they needed. So that's where I see all this headed is, but the more unique insights and the more unique perspectives that you provide, or the unique data that you provide, will most likely start getting surfaced up. And that's where you should be starting to focus on. So it's really spending time and doing research and writing quality content and really bringing new content up to the table. Okay. So from question from Kevin, do platforms like Google really care about detection of AI content from tools like Grammarly or Originality AI? Is there a percentage of detection that honestly, they don't care. They have publicly said this. John Mueller, who has gone and said this in several areas, they really don't care if the content was written with AI. They care the quality of their content, right? So meaning if you're earlier in the webinar, we showed how we have switched to quality production metrics for us, where we spend more time on ideation and we spend more time on research, and we really focus on providing unique insights. And we also do a good job of spending more time on editing, and then we do a good job of spending more time of content distribution. So it's not really about that. It's really about the uniqueness of the content. But you can use AI to obviously write it in your voice, in your tone, and even train a GPT transformer to be able to speed up the content production. And so there's elements where you use AI to superhumanize you per se, but you have to do the harder part, which is becoming more like a journalistic writer or a research paper writer, and really spend time at providing something interesting and unique. Okay. This is from Matthew Rogers. Are there SEO tools that incorporate SGE for your brand? I'm not quite sure what you mean. Do you mean, are there SEO tools out in the market? If you mean has Ahrefs, has SEMrush, or has any of the big major third-party tools figured out what's going on in SGE yet? I wish yes, but no. So there is a huge opportunity for this in the marketplace right now. If that is the question, there it really isn't. So, and so what you really need to do is, at least what's been being done for us particularly, is we spend a lot of time protecting what I call our core keywords. So what I mean by that is, you as an SEO know what are the keywords that are for consideration. You know what are the keywords for basically consumption, right? Purchasing, and what are the keywords for awareness. On top of that, you need to make sure that these keywords you're constantly reviewing and searching and looking at the search results pages. And from that, you're able to see what is going on And what I shared today with you is what I've noticed across the board, across all of our clients across their core keywords, right? So as we continue to search, it's really about the unique perspectives, or the summation happens on the awareness, but as you go deeper and deeper, the SGE results even look totally different themselves and how it's being showcased. So a question from Tigran: any insights about image search? I saw you Google remove the shopping part from Google Lens. It seems now it does generic search. Tigran, great question. I haven't dug deep into image search yet. So what we will do is, if you like, we can do a follow-up with you on that. So I'll move on to the next question. From Elena: what do you see the impact of all of this on PPC? Elena, fantastic question, by the way. Our last webinar was exactly about this subject. So maybe the team can share the webinar link for Elena, but we spent a whole hour talking about the impact of how this affects PPC. And we went through the whole webinar series. So I have about an hour worth of content for you to be able to look at and enjoy and go over. So please share the link with Elena so she's aware of it. Thank you, Elena. The next question is from Arthur. Is content generated by ChatGPT considered qualified content for Google? Yes. I think I answered this a little bit earlier. You can create content from Google, but it's really like, please shift the content writing part to into ChatGPT, or the brand voice guidance into ChatGPT, right? We've been doing this for 2-3 years, but check it. Meaning check what it's spitting out, obviously. But more importantly, provided a very robust research and outline that you do prior. So give it the guardrails of what are you trying to write? What is the content brief? What are you trying to get across? And then let it write it in your voice and in your tone that is resonate with the brand. And then on top of that, then start splitting the content and start distributing it everywhere. And Arthur, that is how we've been using it for the last 3 years, 2.5, 3 years or so. And we've seen no issues at all in terms of content production. Okay. Question from Narad: does the Google algorithm follow the same logic in different countries, or does it have also geographic variations? Great question, Narad. So Google's algorithm gets rolled out in different countries at different times and at different, but overall, what ends up happening, or at least what we've noticed, is just like us as growth marketers, they will continuously be running different experiments. They might run some certain experiments in certain countries, but in general, when it gets rolled out in the US, since that is the predominant largest search engine that is utilized for them, it takes some time for it to show up in other countries as well. Okay, so it doesn't happen right away, but it comes. So there might be some lagging elements of it, but it's really, really important for you to really pay attention to the experiments, to really pay attention to some really good SEO publishers do an incredible job of this, from SEO Journal, from even SEMrush, and so on and so forth. Okay. I know we're getting close to time. So I want to make sure we still have a few questions. So I will stay on, obviously. For those of you who have another meeting, please make sure you fill out the form. Feel free to schedule a call. Both of those are available there. Thank you for attending, but I will stay on and continue answering some more of the questions. So question from Leanna. Thanks for the webinar. For Leanna, was super advanced. So no, we don't really, we've started to go away from the skyscraper technique. We're starting to see that it's not as effective, and we believe that is one of the areas that would really get hurt, right? So like writing the list of 100 or 150, or we have seen that potentially could be an area that gets affected really grossly by a -G experience. It's more important to start building a topical relevance and really writing more of the pillar and spoke strategy. So this is from an anonymous attendee. Not that you're focusing on quality, will the mean word count for blog posts be longer, be an issue? Will a 500 post of a high value be worth more than a regular one? Great question. We've actually gone larger and longer on our content production. So at one point we were 1,500, we now produce well over 2,000, 2,500 words. There was a recent study done by, I believe it was SEMrush, that actually went and looked at, it was close to 18,000 keywords or so. They released this study in December or so. And what they found, it was the mean word of the top ranking pages was roughly around 1,500 words across multiple search intents and search queries. So what I actually do see happening is the opposite. I see longer form content becoming equally as important. And then for you to be able to figure out how do you provide unique insights and how do you provide an easy navigation experience, right? So it's not just the length of the content. Is it user friendly? Is it easy for users to skim through the content? Can they gather the information? It can't just be 1,500 words, right? Are there enough imagery? But also what we've started noticing too is the use of video. So the people who are actually starting to use video and providing engaging, or even the use of audio, so providing a sound experience and becoming much more multi-dimensional, seems to be surfacing up as well. Great question from Mr. Anonymous. Another question from another Anonymous. Silo structure with parent. Did I lose that one? Oh, no, there it is. Silo structure with parent and child topics. What was a recent trend would you suggest for already published articles that already perform well? So what we've seen or tried, you don't want the content to get lost, right? So you don't want orphan type of content at all. So you really want to make sure, for example, if you're writing topical, if you want to be an expert on SEO, there's different ways of doing this, right? You're going to write content on on-site SEO. You're going to run content on tactical SEO. You're going to write content on off-site SEO. And then on-site SEO, you're going to go through all the different content creation processes, and you're going to start branching down further and further and further. And at one point, you're going to wake up and you're going to say, oh my God, I have 100 blog pieces and I have a tree of all of this information. So how do I go about making it easier, not only for the user, but making it easier for Google? This is where the power of entity-based SEO and headless CMS structures really step in. And what you can maybe decide to do is you could say, hey, I want to start creating unique books or unique left navigation for Google that will allow me to start maybe creating glossaries, right? Because I've done a great job of doing entity-based SEO and structuring my data accordingly. I can start creating a glossary out of the blue and really start showing, hey, where on my website you can go and find this information if you choose to. Or on top of that, you can create books and you can say, these are everything that we've ever written about on-site SEO, and here are all the 5 or 10 or 15 blog articles. And you can start playing with these different types of left navigation or right navigation that's more intended for the user, but it also allows for the Google as a whole to have the interlinking that's necessary. The next question, are writers doomed because of AI? Absolutely not. We're actually hiring writers. So if you're a writer looking for a job, feel free to apply. Hires are about to become superhuman. So what we see happening is writers' role will shift, right? So writers will become more topical experts. They will really understand the topic really, really well. They will spend time doing their research. They will become more or less akin to investigative journalists and really spending the time and being able to craft well thought through content as a whole. I think I answered all the questions. If I missed any, we will make sure we capture it. Thank you everyone again for coming. As you could, so a small thing, as you continue finishing or filling the form, we will make sure to send you all of these goodies to be able to digest and think through. Some of them will have PDFs attached to them, so it will be easy for your content consumption. These are some of the things that we talked about in the webinar, and we go a little bit more deeper into it. So it's a good way to really understand it. A topic we didn't get to that I'm passionate about is really programmatic SEO and how to do it right. This is a really good read. And then AI and modern SEO and the Google generative search engine experience. These also come with documents as a whole. So we will share this with everyone that attended today. And in addition, please do fill out the webinar so we can have that. And then on top of that, If you want to get connected, and seriously, I mean this genuinely. We would love to chat and get to know you guys better. It's been a really honor and a pleasure for you guys coming and attending the webinar today. Feel free to schedule a call if you need just any advice or consultation. I always love to meet the community members and look forward to meeting you all and having you join our future webinars. And have a great day.